saying that like a lot over here, I see a lot of people getting beat. And like for me to act as though I don't know anything about it or would not care to respond to it would be a misinterpretation of everything I was taught. I was raised to feel that if you don't stand for something, you go for anything. And that principles are more important than anything else. So let's have some and let's speak on them.
Man who stands for nothing will fall for anything.
Right. That's
do you find a difficulty in transforming frustration into humor? Does anybody resent that?
No, I think that this is as much a part of our culture as anything else. Like I often say that where I'm coming from is closer to Langston Hughes than Huey Newton. You know, that I have come from the same community or the same national community, the same microcosm of the society, but the people who were my instructors, the Paul Robesons, the Langston Hughes, the Martin Delaney, the David Walker, the County Cullen, these people, you know, not only knew the issues and the ideas and the emotional content of where the community was coming from, but they displayed it in the manner that the community would display it. It's no mistake that Richard Pryor and Dick Gregory and the people of this nature are some of the brightest lights in the black community, because not only do they talk about what's happening, but they talk about it in a way that loosens everybody to the warmth that is inherent in our community.
It works so well that way. I mean, I was just, you know, some people say, God, I wonder what hit them first, the anger or the humor. I mean, you first see it as being mad about a situation, and then you turn it into a comical way to bring it to people.
I don't turn it into anything. I just speak on it the way it looks to me.
Yeah, but you do it. You make it understandable.
Well, it's the theater of the absurd, you know, and like for the only way that I could change it would be to act serious about something that looks so ridiculous. I'm thinking that would be the change. You know, I think that I just speak on it the way it is. And a lot of folks who had thought about that say, yep, you know, right, you know, bingo.
They can identify with
right. So I don't think that it's stretching it to make it funny. I think it would be stretching it to make it anything else.
Absolutely. There's so many things to draw on for your material. This is like
right. They just keep on doing stuff.
This is a hot time for you, isn't it?
Well, you know, like ever since I've been conscious, you know, it's been, you know, there have been people who have represented different aspects of our society whose position was more or less ridiculous, all the way from Governor Orville Forbes, and consider commenting on the positions that they took without looking at it from a basis of common sense, you see. And you feel that anybody with the least bit of common sense could recognize certain imperfections in the philosophy that they were putting together.
But if it helps if you've been repressed at some point in your life to see it that way, to say, God damn, this is, you know.
Well, see, I don't think that there's anybody in this country who's been a victim of the politics of this country has not been repressed. I think that some people think that they never have. They look at repression and protest and concern about national and community issues as something new, because they do not recognize the repression inherent in what their society has given them. I'm saying that they treat, in the new administration, they treat old people worse than they treat anybody else. And see, like most black people.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I hope you're doing well. This is Saturday. I'm Preacher Moss, the host, of course, of the ShOUT Show. You're in the right place. Like I said, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you got a chance at the top of the show to get a peek at our Saturday spotlight. I wish in a very bad way that he was still living and we can have him on the show, because I have no doubt if I had a platform called the ShOUT Show, I might be able to get him to appear. This is none other than Gil Scott Heron, the amazing brilliance and genius of Mr. Gil Scott Heron. And I will explain to some of the viewers who don't know who he is, who he is and what he represents. I want to make sure also we have people come to the show for the first time. Yeah, you're in luck. You've chosen a really good time to come to the Shout Out Show. I get to explain someone's brilliance, if you will, and genius, and I don't throw them around lightly because I'm old enough to see how it's played out, how a word or a thought or a philosophical understanding of something has been waylaid and laid over society, and I can see where the dots connect, where the puzzle fits a little bit on human behavior, ethics, morality, all these type of things. And it comes through a lot of the music that this man put out. He was a poet, he was a musician, he was a documentarian, he was a writer. I'm going to get into that. But for those people coming on the show for the first time, I'm going to say something I've never really said. You are lucky. You are lucky to have a shout out show. Not because lucky I'm here. No, it's lucky that it comes through a whole chain of commission of people like Mr. Gil Scott Heron, people like Dick Gregory, who inspire folks like that. They inspire people like me to put these platforms out because you know what? If I didn't have these platforms, the crime, if you will, the injustice is that you would not know about these people and you would live your life thinking, we didn't have any leaders. We didn't have any sparks, any inspirational type of people. These are people you don't see on television. These are people who are not going to be in social media, things like that. I'm going to get to those reasons why they're not on social media. And I don't mean because they've left this earth and returned to Allah. No, I mean that they represent a certain type of integrity that a lot of us are just not used to. The things that come off people's tongues, the ideas, this comes from a culture where you couldn't lie. You could lie, but you can get checked. You didn't have an environment of people who made you uncomfortable living mistruths or untruths and putting them out there in the market of untruths. So you're looking for truth in a market of untruths. All you're going to find is marked up, more developed. I want to say more hyper presented untruths. So every once in a while, you need a truth teller. And for me, Gil Scott Heron was that person. My professional life, brothers and sisters, I've been able to work with a couple of people. I was never able to work with Mr. Richard Pryor. He was older when I got out to Hollywood and he was sick. But you heard Gil Scott Heron talk about Dick Gregory, who was my mentor. And now I get to talk about Gil Scott Heron. Now, let's be very, very clear. I'm going to be pulling excerpts from a conversation that we had some years ago. It was one show that I did in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a Super Bowl Sunday. And technically, this was not a regular Gil Scott Heron show. This was a brother man show. He was doing a show for a brother named Steve that owned a club called the Jazz Estate. And somehow on an off date, he was able to get Gil Scott Heron to come to Milwaukee and perform. Why do I say that? Because Gil Scott Heron did not come with his band. He just came with himself and he played piano. I was working with another group. I was an MC comedian for the evening. There was another group called Ida Cola and was Ida Cola and another pianist, her husband. It'll come back to me. I know this guy. I did plenty of shows. I don't even know why I keep pulling these blanks. But anyway, they performed. Ida Cola, she performed beautiful. Gil Scott Heron, we had a break before we brought him on. And I had the pleasure of talking to this man. And he noticed my kufi. And he said, well, brother, are you a revolutionary? Are you a Muslim? I said, I'm both. Well, how do you answer Gil Scott Heron? I said, I'm both. And he looked at me and said, he said, one of the hardest things to be is a religious man right now. I said, huh? He said, one of the hardest things to be is a religious man right now. He said, because religion, when it's perfectly lived in an unperfect society, in an unbalanced society, it's like living in the middle of a minefield. And he said, the minefield are people who explode with indecency, but don't have the humility to say, I'm wrong. And as I began to think about that, brothers and sisters, here we are in 2021. You know what is really hard to be these days? Religious. And I'm going to tell you why. Because religion has gone into entertainment. There was a time back in the day when in the black community, one of the best jobs a black man can have was to be a minister. People listen to you. You had steady work on Sunday. You had a church infrastructure. Then it moved to entertainment. And you had to entertain to get people to come in. So it wasn't enough to be well versed in the Bible. You had to entertain people. As Gil said, you had to give them shiny stuff to look at so they came in. And America has become that. And one of the reasons it's really, really hard to be religious in America, as I harken back to what he said because it's the fact that we don't want to look at the fault lines and the general disappointment and dysfunction that we have in ourselves. A, as believers, and B, as a community, religious community. He likened it to Hollywood. And I'll get to Gil in a minute. And I'm also going to bring in my shout out show family. So you guys, he harkened it to Hollywood. He said, imagine you are on a stage for Hollywood and you have people that look at you. He says, but then you move away from the stage and you still feel like you have to perform. He said, that's the trappings. That's the trappings on when you lose yourself. Now, before we go any further, let's go into our comment section. I know we got our shout out show family. Who we got up? Sister Reed, welcome back. Sister Reed just came back from Michigan. Just hit back in Houston. I'm glad you got back safely. I know y'all were burning up that road. Hope you're feeling well. I know sometimes when you come off a trip, you don't feel so well. But I saw a video of you serenading your father for his birthday. And I think he smiled because you gave him earplugs for his birthday. May Allah bless you. No, I saw you singing. It was a good time, and it was heartwarming. I give you a hard time, but it was heartwarming. I'm glad that you got to spend some time with your father. I could see it in his face on that Facebook post that he was a happy man. All right. Who we got next? My main man, Altaf Rashid. If you guys don't know who Altaf Rashid is, shame on you. He's royalty on the show, just as Sister Ree is. These are the Shout Out Show soldiers, the Shout Out Show Hall of Fame. I'm going to make them the Hall of Fame, brothers and sisters. Like, you have to have a certain amount of time before you can be in the Hall of Fame. Altaf, JT, my mom, Miss Cade. We got a lot of Hall of Famers here on the show, just so you know. Altaf is the official, brothers and sisters. He is the official ambassador, the Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show, has been and will remain so. Brother Altaf, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on the show. Next up. Yeah, that's right. Reed said, I sure did. It was beautiful. I saw it. I'm going to try and find that post because it was fun. I want to post that one. All right. Who else we got? We got Sister Satana, of course, our consultant producer, make sure everything's happening and we're moving along. And a shout out to Sister Satana. I appreciate you. Also, Sister Ree, happy birthday greetings to Dad. There you go. See how this works, brothers and sisters. This is a community. This is like a community platform. Not like Clubhouse or stuff like that, but I mean, just a community platform where people can come and be who they're going to be. All right. Let's get to our topic. You want to post that? The genius of Gil Scott Heron. You know, I started talking about Gil Scott Heron, and I went into this thing about entertainment. You know, Gil Scott Heron was never an entertainer for me. He was a person that he reminded you of your own humanity, but he also reminded you of your own potential. Gil Scott Heron was born. His mother was an opera singer. His father was a soccer player. Mother was, I think, American, and his father was Jamaican. He wound up playing overseas, I think in Scotland, something like that. But he was part Jamaican. That probably might explain his part of his work ethic. But the thing about Gil Scott Heron was he was pretty much a prodigy early on. You know, he attended an HBCU, Lincoln University, only did one semester. He drops out, brothers and sisters, because he wants to write a novel. But he winds up not writing one novel. He writes two. The first one is called The Vulture, and the second one is called The Nigger Factory. Now, if you want to look these up, I would suggest you do. Because I want you to understand and experience the genius of somebody who basically is a very young man formulating ideas and putting them out in written text. He's writing novels at basically the age of 18, 19 years old. The Vulture is about a young man that gets killed up in New York City, and four men tell about his story. And the Nigger Factory is interesting because it's about a young man who is the leader of the Black Student Union at a HBCU, and he runs into a situation because there's a radical element within the school that thinks he's not being radical enough, and they seek to undo him and do even bigger radical ideas. Why am I saying this? Because it frames the time in which Gil Scott Heron was there. This was his reality, brothers and sisters. This was not this fake activism, stuff like that. You know, I don't mean to call it fake activism, but it's not particular activism that resounds with me in terms of what I've seen as organic leadership. See, it's hard to be an activist if you're not willing to assume in some regard the mantle of leadership. And what we have is a leaderless advocacy that's been going on for years. It kills me. Somebody calls a rally, I just show up. I got things in my email. We're going to have something virtually for George Floyd. Okay. I get it. But then again, I'm like, where are we with this? Where are we with I have a rally for George Floyd? What do we seek to achieve, brothers and sisters? And that's the question that Gil Scott Heron starts addressing in his music, in his poetry, in his art. Like I said, the guy's a phenom. He didn't graduate from Lincoln University yet. He winds up getting a master's from Johns Hopkins in what? Creative writing. He writes basically the revolution will not be televised. And he has a plethora of hits. I can't actually put him on the show because thank goodness, well, sadly, the beast and the devils associated with Facebook and YouTube will probably flag this video, and you won't even get to see this episode. That's how deep it is. You know, even if I put the lyrics up, I think these guys will actually just snatch it off because it's Gil Scott Heron. But I would encourage everybody, do your due diligence. If you have a couple minutes, 20, 30 minutes, go investigate Gil Scott Heron because he writes several iconic classics. I can give you a bunch of them. Pieces of a Man, great album. Winter in America, amazing song. The Revolution Not Be Televised, great song. B-Movie, great song. I'm giving you hits, brothers and sisters, that you can go to right now, and they're relevant. B-Movie talks about the whole idea of voting, what that means. The revolution will not be televised. It's about the whole idea of, again, activism and revolutionaries or fake revolutionaries. Pieces of a Man is about a man who loses his job. And in losing his job, he loses his dignity. Pieces of a Man. It starts out with a letter for Jimmy, and Jimmy finds out he's been fired. You know, and you know, Message in a Bottle is about heroin addiction. So he's going through all of these things. And rarely, except like in the case of a Richard Pryor, do you get to see an artist willingly taking his art and showing you everyone their scars. He's an amazing guy for that. But here's the thing that makes Gil Scott Heron special. Is that he becomes very, very prolific in the fact that he doesn't see himself as famous. He sees himself as a help agent. Let me say it again. He doesn't see himself as famous. He sees himself as a help agent. And in that space of being a help agent, he really defines during that time the whole scope of what it is to have Black identity and Black power. When I say Black power, I mean transferable power. Like if I have something about Black businesses and I'm about doing successful Black businesses, I'm willing, in fact, I'm compelled to go to the next brother and teach them about how to have successful Black businesses. This was the revolution he spoke about. It was about education. It was about engagement, but it was also about humility. Can we build on a premise of being ethical and moral? You guys know I rail about Hollywood and things like that, but I'm going to tell you guys something about Hollywood. Hollywood, for all its up and downs, is unethical. Its aspects of being unethical, its aspects of being immoral, its aspects of being manipulative. All those things are true, but I give it credit. The machine that is Hollywood is consistent. And let me even go further. The people who enter that machine, they know what they are doing. Hollywood has created, brothers and sisters, It started just with the entertainment business, but now it's in the engagement business. And Hollywood, just like outside of Hollywood, has found a demographic of people. They've identified a group of people or a stereotype or a prototype of people who will do anything, say anything to anybody, anywhere, anyhow to make a buck. They'll do whatever they have to do to make a buck. And Muslims, Christians, Jews, don't think that you are immune. You know, because the shakedown in religious communities is amazingly high and sadly relevant. Don't think that people in religious communities don't use religion to get power, to get prestige, to leverage things against other people, to enrich themselves. Don't think that doesn't happen in your religious community. It happens all the time. And what it means, brothers and sisters, I talk about Gil Scott Heron, is that there's a metric that we need to find. His genius in his work and his message. And let's be honest, Gil Scott Heron will tell you he wasn't an angel. He suffered from addiction. He went to prison a couple times for possession of cocaine and things like that. But here's the thing that I remember from Gil Scott Heron that he said to me in Milwaukee on that Super Bowl Sunday. And it's so old school that it's scary. So give me a minute to just compose this idea. So I had just done my show. I just done my show. And I was going to bring on Adicola and Melvin. I don't know why I can't remember his last. Melvin Ryan. There you go. It was Adicola and Melvin Ryan. I feel bad. I redeemed myself. Adicola and Melvin Ryan were on stage. And Gil Scott Heron was at the side of the stage. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I was a little intimidated because, it's Gil Scott Heron. You hear your heroes on record. Sometimes, you don't even want to meet your heroes because you don't want to be disappointed. They may say something that do something. But at this point, I was like, I know about Gil Scott Heron from the business. And, he said something to me that I try to live it every day. And I would encourage all of us to live it every day. And I asked him about presence. And he said, let me ask you. He said, let me tell you something. He goes, my grandmother always said, if you can help somebody, help them. Frame that for me. He goes, my grandmother said back then, he said that if you can help somebody, help them. It's not about the grand show. It's not about, letting people know I am helping you. He said, no, it's about keeping a continuum in a legacy of doing good, number one. I said, number two is it balances the universe. Like if you say I did good, it should balance with I didn't have to say I did good. He said it should balance. But he said something that was really, really important right after that. He said the black man, the human being, but the black man in particular, and the black woman even more so, have to get into a mindset that wherever you're going, you've got to have a purpose. That wherever you're going, you have to have a purpose. We can't be in the habit of showing up and not knowing why we're there. Because if you show up and you don't know why you're there, then people will tell you why you're there. People will tell you why you need to stay. And all of these things, brothers and sisters, I'm just bringing it up, because it's a bit of genius to it. Because when you listen to his records, he does us the favor in his songs of making sure we know that he's present in his songs. So almost like you can finish a record, he comes out of the booth and the conversation still continues. That does not happen now. We don't have the artists like that. We don't even have a platform where we can speak to artists who we disagree with. We don't have a platform or I want to say a mechanism where we can question people's intentions and their motives. And I don't mean tearing people down, but, there's a thing, just like in the revolution, it will not be televised. He had to question the leaders of his time and go, what are you doing? Roy Wilkins, what are you doing? Why are we trying to do this thing and make these people happy? We can't do it. He literally tells you, brothers and sisters, where he comes from. He's talking about Paul Robeson, County Cullen. He's talking about Langston Hughes. These are the intellectuals of his time that inform his music and his art. And through his generosity, he informs us through his music and his art. He's a sharer. Gil Scott Heron is going to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. He'll go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. And they'll find somebody to introduce Gil Scott Heron. But it's not going to be any of his contemporaries, because there's very few contemporaries that are still left. I mean, people who could, I feel like, have the right to introduce Gil Scott Heron would be somebody like a Stevie Wonder or Minister Farrakhan. People like that. People who, just like he talked about, when they show up, they know why they're there. And I have to say this even more so, because if you listen to him talk about B-movie, that was the 2020 election. That was the 2016 election, right? That was the 2012 election. We're talking about elections going all the way back. And the idea when he talked about we've given over the idea to a premise that a small group of people representing a mandate somehow have the right to make the laws for all of us. Even if you look at politics right now, the laws that are trying to go through with Biden and Mitch McConnell, does it bother you that it's a numbers game and it's not a purpose game? Does it bother you that it's a popularity contest and not a situation where they're assessing the needs of people who have been hurting for years? And it takes a pandemic to bring people to their knees to go, we don't really have time. Have you noticed now that as the pandemic begins to loosen, people go back to this reckless type of behavior? Gil Scott Heron did back in 1972. He wrote about it. There's other aspects of the interview that I posted. But what I want to make sure that I'm saying is that I don't cheat you out of a process. The genius of Gil Scott Heron is he's reliable. Can I say that? I don't know what Arabic is for reliable, but he's reliable. He's your street corner griot. Gil Scott Heron is the one who drove your people like Public Enemy will tell you about him. People like Paris will tell you about him. Artists like that will tell you about him. Tracy Chapman will tell you about him. But now there's an abyss. There's a big crater, and now we just throw the information down into the abyss. Maybe Chuck D can induct Gil Scott Heron into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know. But what I don't want to happen is he just goes in. People don't know why he's important to this culture and the culture that came before and the culture that's going to come after us. We live in a culture now. It's like, you can't say nothing about Jay-Z. You can't say nothing about Queen Bee. I'm a grown man. I look at their art. I look at what they do. I look at what they say. There's a lot you could say. But do I have that kind of time? Am I invested in him that way? Absolutely not. I wish him all the best. I wish him all success. But I'm here to tell you, as a person who's been through a lot in terms of entertainment, taking my art and really using it in terms of religious work, trying to assert religious work in this whole cornucopia of problems that we deal with called life. I salute people like Gil Scott Heron. I salute his bands. I salute his songs. I can't tell you how many albums he released. His last album release, I believe, was in 2011, whenever it is, but he passed away a year afterwards. And the name of the album, his last album, was called I'm New Here. The name of the album is called I'm New Here. And for myself, as I deal with certain situations, I love the album because I find myself, even in my own Muslim community, as he said I would, I find myself saying I'm new here. And why? Because when I show up, I don't necessarily know my purpose. I know my purpose. Other people, they're like, why are you here? And so you have to work and be diligent in a certain way. But shouldn't it be that we're all in some kind of wavelength? We're all in some kind of network. We have some kind of symbiotic relationship that we know the work that needs to be done. So when I talk about know your purpose, I'm going there because I know the work that needs to be done. When I see people in our community, there's a quick glance and maybe a little salute or head nod because they know the work that needs to be done. What makes it complicated is we've created or we've ushered in a group of people that never know what work needs to be done, and even when they know what it needs to be done, they're not workers. There's a quote in the Quran. I love it. It says, Allah never wastes the work of a righteous worker. And what's the word? Worker and righteous. I would implore that we get out of this quicksand, if you will, of being judgmental about people's intentions and their actions. I know sometimes people will tell me ideas, and I'll be like, this Negro ain't gonna pull this idea off. Yeah, that's right, brother. I walk away. Yeah. But I had a time when I did that. And I saw a guy, he told me he had this grand idea that he was going to clean up this drug market. But you know what he was listening to? It's funny. He's like, man, I was listening to Gil Scott Heron. He got this activism from Gil Scott Heron. He said, man, I'm going over there, and there's a spot around from the mosque, little drug corner. And he's like, I'm going to clean that corner up. And we laughed like, that Negro ain't going over there to clean. He probably going to go buy some drugs. That's what he was thinking. And on the way from the mosque, headed to my grandmother's house at the time, I saw him on the corner talking to these drug people, these drug dealers, with no gun, with no knife, with no bat, with no backup. All he had was a willingness to do the work. And sometimes in art, that's the thing you really have to love. You have to move away from the beat and the catchy lyrics and the soliloquies and all those things. You have to look at the beauty of work. Do you know how blessed it is to wake up and know you have to go work someplace, that there's work to be done? The scariest time you're going to have in your life when you wake up and go, what you going to do today? I ain't got nothing to do today. We always have work to do. But I think about the brother who's on the corner, and I was so impressed with that brother and so unimpressed with myself that I pulled my car over and I walked back to him. And he was doing the work. And he was talking to these guys, and I didn't interrupt. In fact, I moved in behind the other guys just so I could blend in. And I listened to the passion what this brother spoke about. And he was speaking directly from a Gil Scott Heron record, verbatim. And he had these guys enwrapped. I mean, they were hypnotized. And it was the most beautiful thing I had seen. Because when you take a level of somebody's work that's not your work, and you can present it to people, and it still has that effect, that calming effect, that peaceful engagement, that insightfulness, that introspection. I'm like, this is a miracle. You see, the genius of Gil Scott Heron is knowing that everyone has the ability to be a genius. That may not be in sports or finance, but everybody has that one thing, that gem inside of them that makes them unique. It makes them special. Also, brothers and sisters, it makes them a genius because only they could do it. Only they can make it happen this way. And so, in many regards, Gil Scott Heron's work, his music, which I'm going to encourage everybody to go to. I did go back and forth about playing his music, but I didn't want to mess up the broadcast. But I would encourage everybody to go watch his interviews. And when you're watching the interview, say, hey, wait a minute, this is a guy who didn't finish. He didn't finish college. He dropped out of his freshman year. He still winds up getting a master's from Johns Hopkins University. And then he winds up teaching at what used to be Federal City Community College. It was now University of District of Columbia School, but it was Federal City College back when he taught. And here's a guy that every level has somehow managed to affect people in a way whereby they were empowered, but they were appreciative of where they were in life. You know, oftentimes, when people help you, they want to make sure they let you know, I helped you. You know, and it speaks to a different time. I know this is the time of social media, me, look at me, da. I would offer, Gil Scott Heron would not have had a hashtag under his supervision. Not a hashtag guy. Even myself, I never knew what a hashtag was. And I was like, I did hashtags, so that's what everybody else was doing. I said, okay, I'll try it. I don't know what a hashtag is. You can't really tell me. I don't even really know how to do my Twitter, brothers and sisters. Facebook is a mystery, and Instagram is so simple as pictures. But even now, I don't know how to upload a picture. I don't know how to upload a picture, a video to Instagram TV. I've never done IG Live. And the reason is those are artificial ways of communicating to people. I want people to respond to the way Gil Scott Heron would treat people. Because I almost said respond to me, but you know what? It is the Gil Scott Herons. It is the Dick Gregory's. It is the people who, when they walk down the street, people want to walk down the street with them. And I'm saying you can be that person because Gil Scott Heron told me I could be that person, and you could be that person, and so many other people could be that person, and we can change the dynamic of what society and what you're seeing right now. I know it's a mouthful, I know. But I think I want everyone to know that Gil Scott Heron, when he wrote The Vulture and when he wrote The Nigger Factory, he spoke to the derogatory nature of how black man and black life and black existence were being treated. And ultimately, you know what? If you stay in the game long enough, the game will catch up with you. I tell folks, if you're you don't drink, if you're a person that doesn't drink, but you hang around drinkers all the time, you're gonna hang around long enough, you're gonna get a drink. If you don't do drugs, but you hang around people who do drugs all the time, you're gonna pick up drug habits. Whether it's using drugs or selling drugs, you're gonna pick up drug habits. But in this rare, elegant, pristine offering of the mind of Gil Scott Heron and his genius is that there's a certain brilliance that you can't overlook. I don't know how you achieve it, so be like me. We don't know how it's achieved, but let's just enjoy it. Let's just appreciate it. So as I wrap up here, brothers and sisters, I really just want to make sure that in the time we're in right now, thank you, Mama Son. Thank you, Aunt Maxine. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, JT. Yep. You're right. You're 100% right, JT. Appreciate you. JT, did you go with me to that Gil Scott Heron show? I was thinking about that earlier today. Well, we'll talk about it later. But the thing I want to emphasize is in this whole vast void, and it is a void between activism and entertainment, because now we have this thing, brothers and sisters, where we want our celebrities to lead us. We want celebrities to lead us. In the absence of having true organic leaders, we've now resolved ourselves to celebrities leading us. Celebrities that have a lot of money all of a sudden have consciousness or we're giving them consciousness. Let me tell you something. You can show up to a rally. That'll make you an activist. You show up to a press conference. That'll make you a revolutionary. You see, the quality of people and your response to the condition of those people, those are the things that make you leaders. Those are the things that make you an activist. Those are the things that drive your advocacy. Those are the things that make you a revolutionary. Not reacting, brothers and sisters, but coming up with creative, innovative, organic solutions to so many things. Gil Scott Heron do with his music. You know, Winter in America is a treatise on white oppression and white privilege in the entire United States, and he does it in a song. He takes you to the Pilgrims and what the Pilgrims did to the Native Americans, and so on and so on and so on. His songs like Johannesburg. He says, I don't like blood flowing, but he almost says, I don't like blood flowing, but revolution is growing. Those type of commentaries you just don't hear anymore. He said the revolution would not be televised. Well, if it was today, a revolution would not be televised. It'd be live streamed or be on Netflix or Hulu because we sold our souls out to the devils as usual. And I tell people, brothers and sisters, what I learned from failure, to understand this system that holds us down. I tried hard to understand this system, this oppressive system that holds us down, that keeps us separated and divided. What I learned in the failure was I wasn't supposed to be in the first place. Why hang around with failed ideas and failed people? In fact, move your people away from failed ideas and failed people. I was trying to fix the solutions. The solution was there was no solution. That wasn't a solution. It was a reality. This situation was not going to change. Save the women and children and get the hell out of the way. That, brothers and sisters, is the revolution not be televised. And you know why it won't be televised? Easy. Because in a very kind way, a very loving way, Gil Scott Heron said, we're soft. We're soft. All the things we're fighting, we're tied into. We say we want to have a revolution. It ain't going to happen without computer blinks and internet and Wi-Fi and all those type of things, because we're not organic people. We don't respond from the soul. We're not from the mud. We don't get it from the mud. And you know why we don't get it from the mud? Because most of us don't own any doggone land. How you going to get it from the mud? You don't own the land. You're renting. And many of us, in the idea of how we're affecting America, with in this group, and that, you are renting. You're not necessarily moving the needle. We had a show, I think it was last week. I said the protest help. The protest helps. Yeah, and people had great ideas. Yeah, it's this, that, and yeah, you know what? Gil Scott Heron, he was like, well, what are you protesting for? What are you protesting for? I think the thing with the George Floyd rallies, I think I said this is Satana. This is Satana. I said people showed up at the rallies with Hackensack balls and suntan lotion and blankets and cell phones and took selfies. And I said, that ain't no revolution. That's a cookout with no meat and no grill. The fire, there wasn't even no fire. The police were there to make sure that the protest went well. Well, God bless the police. Kinda. But let me close on this idea. And we'll go into, and just so you guys know, we're not using the usual clothes anymore. Thank you, Facebook. Facebook is from the devil. There you go. And Devil woke up this morning and was like, let me see how many likes I have on Facebook. That's the way I feel about Facebook. And you can take it off. You take me off Facebook. I don't really care. Thank you, Mama Son. I appreciate it. And I'm going to continue this whole idea that we're going to get, the shout out show is going to get away from social media a little bit. We can get away from social media. I don't know how, but we're going to have engagement of our people in a meaningful way whereby we maintain and we can enjoy our own agency. Sans these platforms like Facebook Live, and YouTube and Twitter. When's the last time you wrote a letter? I think that's going to be my thing next week. I'm actually going to write a letter to somebody and put a stamp on it. Pap. And I'm going to call them like, hey, did you get it? What? My letter. My email? No, my letter. I'm going to take it retro. So I will close on this. There'll never be another Gil Scott Heron. There'll never be another Dick Gregory, just like there'll never be another Muhammad Ali. The times produce the heroes. We don't have any heroes right now. The reason is because, the times were met with people who just said, who want to be a hero, and step to the back. So I'll say this and I'll go. Actually, we're going to go through I have to go through my sponsors. Sadly, sponsors, due to the situation with Facebook, I can't run the back ad because they will shut it down. They take the volume off of it, everything. And it goes to show you about algorithms, brothers and sisters. Last Poet said the same thing. And by the way, he cleared up something in an interview. Gil Scott Heron was never part of the Last Poets. They worked together. They came to Lincoln University. He saw them. He said, can I start a group like you? And of course, they were like, sure. But he started his own group, Brian Jenkins, rest is history. So take this and then I'll go. What's your genius? What's your genius? And not only what's your genius, are you willing to share that genius? Are you willing to walk the lonely road that it takes to perfect your skill, your message, your art, whatever? Are you willing to do that? To be treated in an obscure way, to not be seen, to not even know that result is going to be the result that you want, but you see it through anyway? Think about that. So let me get to our sponsors. Of course, we want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to the website, you can go to old Gil Scott Heron way. You can pick up the phone and call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. And we will have the CEO and chairwoman of BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. She'll be coming on the first Saturday in June for our Saturday Spotlight, Miss Maxine BK. So stick around, keep your eye out for more messages about that. Tomorrow, I will not be here. Tomorrow I will not be here. I have to do my little graduation for band. I'm trying to figure out how to do both. I'm going to talk to Sister Tana after the show. But I think I'm going to, maybe I can't put the link up. Maybe we do. Maybe we put the link up, Sister Tana. We can send the people to the graduation. Who cares? Wednesday's graduation was actually kind of cool. But like I said, I'm just happy to be out of school after 3 years. So again, you want some more information about financial advising, go to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Speaking of graduating, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you are serious and interested about getting quality Islamic education at the master's level, now there's certain things you can do. You can get a master's in Islamic leadership and Islamic studies. You can get it also in Islamic education, or you can do the MDiv, Master's of Divinity, with a focus in being a Muslim chaplain or something like that. I encourage all of you to look into the coursework, because one thing I did not fully expect was that the middle part of my studies, my coursework, it becomes really, really apparent how it connects me or how I'm connected to society around me. And I don't mean the terminology and stuff like that. I mean literally reading things and understanding the history of how Islam has worked throughout the world, how it's been engaged, if you will. And I mean engaged in terms of logic, using the akal and all those type of things, and knowledge and reason, kasab, all of these different philosophical terms in Islamic theology. It's really interesting because it permeates so much, and it helped me understand so much, not so much what's going on in our communities, but it also gave me insight as to how even I, preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire, and a good-looking black man, that's right, could actually improve the situation around me. So don't sleep. Go to bayanonline.com. I'm sorry, bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. All right, brothers and sisters. So we got to bounce. I'm going to turn it over to Sister Satana. You guys have been great. I hope you enjoyed the show. I know we ran long, but come on. I'm talking about Gil Scott Heron. It should still be going, but I'm going to take a break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yo, assalamu alaikum. I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire, but I like to add a new title to my name. I'm Professor Preacher Moss. You know why? Because I just graduated. Wait a minute, let me get this out of here. This is it. Okay. I'm Professor Preacher Moss, and it's come through the courtesy and the blessing of the Muhammad Ali Scholarship, which came through Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Now, listen, I know a lot of you people are thinking, can I do it? Yes, you can do it. This is the part where I know I'm supposed to say it's easy. It's not easy. Listen, it was easy to get this degree. Trump would be a mufti. I digress. Listen, though, for you brothers and sisters that are interested, go to bayanonline.org, and you could be like me. Put yourself in the picture for Islamic education. Wait a minute, there's the picture right there. Sound like everybody. Take care. Preach them off.